I mean, the weird thing about is getting all this information here, because to appreciate the scene, you would have already had to have seen Madoka to understand the intro. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we are back with some Magia record. I'm not even making the joke anymore. We're past season 1, you know what we're doing. Which, I guess, leads into the fact, yeah, we just finished season 1. I will say, even though I'm not in my notes section yet, there are elements at the very end of season 1 that I did not follow fully. I'm talking about mostly in the speech scene when we're seeing what's happening to the Black Wings out in the crowd. Specifically people bumping into one another, and I think we're supposed to be guessing at people's allegiances and possibly infiltration of the group. Did not follow that fully, even on rewatch. So keep that in mind moving forward, especially if something might, be wholly dependent on understanding that. But yeah, that said, we come back with notes on the board. So let's go ahead and hop on into the board first. And with the board comes the board changelog, where it is very simple. I added Sayaka and connected her with a white line to Mami and to a green line to Iroha and Yachio. Because otherwise, it's all the pre-existing relationships. Except for, sorry, I'm just realizing I should have changed Mami's lines. Did I? No. No. Well, I've got a red line between her and Iroha, which does represent what's going on there. I have a white line with her and Sayaka, so clearly... No, I said that. And I guess there should be a connection between her and Yachio. And I didn't. Sorry. Failure on my part. The one thing that only I do, right? So, yeah. I know I have notes about the situation, but apparently I failed on the board there, so hopefully future me will remember to make that change. Although, entirely dependent on what happens in this episode, I guess. So that was the board. Let's go ahead and hop into the notes. If the coordinator, and I think I wrote this note before I even rewatched the episode because it was a thought that occurred to me between recordings. If the coordinator has grief seeds to spare, and the Magias are, or were, cloning witches, doesn't it stand to reason that she may also have grief seeds because she is dealing with the Magias? I know the coordinator is up to something. She is shady as fuck, or sus, or whatever people are saying these days. I suspect her source of stuff has to come from some other group. Maybe maybe she's a Blackwing, maybe she's one of the Magias? I've forgotten what the leadership calls themselves. Maybe she's one of the leaders. I don't know. But I definitely think something is up with her. The first scene where Yachio confronts Mafuyu about telling Iroha what is actually going on, Yachio says it's too early, and my only interpretation of that is to mean that they haven't yet experienced enough fighting or despair to be at risk of turning into a witch, so therefore they don't need to know the horrors that are awaiting them yet. It's a confusing stance to take from any point of view, really. Especially so considering the follow-up where Yachio uses a grief seed on Iroha's soul gem to wake her up, implying that she was being drained of magical energy, or that the grief seed can also cleanse the soul gem of despair. Either way, it's clearly not too early when they are at risk enough to be using grief seeds left and right. The threat level in this show, compared to Madoka, has gotten to such strange levels. Like, before the Walpurgis shows up in Madoka, the threat levels waver between what one isolated witch in a labyrinth can do to a bunch of mind-controlled people hurting themselves. Right? Mami's big twist was effectively just a large set of teeth. Now Yachio just got chomped by this thing, and Aroa is acting like Yachio's fine, and she can help her. If Aroa had acted any other way, I would have thought Yachio was dead. All past experiences would lead me to believe that having that happen to you would kill you. Again, thinking of Mammy. So, just writing off these threats and escalating them shows how different the setting of Magia Record is to Madoka Magica. I think the tragedy of Yachio would be people like Iroha. If we take Yachio at face value and believe that her wish has been twisted to make her survive at the cost of those around her, then pushing people away would be the correct moral and ethical decision. People like Aroa would keep coming along trying to change your mind about it. People that are very good at being convincing but are ultimately clueless. One could say that the price paid for their foolishness is their death, but death is a price you pay only once. They don't have to suffer the price, as they would no longer be around to feel its effect. There is someone that is, though, Yachio. For having convinced her, giving her hope, and then dying, Yachio, due to her twisted wish, would be the only one left behind to feel everything. The only one left to pay that price. Until the next Aroa shows up to trick her all over again, anyway. So the brown on brown text that I couldn't read said rumor of Kamihama's holy maiden, which I guess means I was wrong when I was calling Mammy a doppel. Somehow she's fully converted into a rumor. I get like that was what the text is implying, even though everything after it seems like doppel stuff. Shot in the dark, does every doppel have a rumor connected to it? The way Mammy is talking to Sayaka would seem to imply that maybe Mammy is from a different timeline to this Sayaka, in that it feels like she's referring to events this Sayaka doesn't know, but we've seen in Madoka already. Obviously, if this is related to the movies, then y'all just continue to be mad at me for not having watched them yet, and possibly ruining a reveal that would make more sense with that context. But I'm working with what I have on hand until I can get around to seeing that movie. Still, there seems to be a disparity between what these two familiar characters are talking about and understanding that I think is a big old clue to something. This also does feel like a more upgraded version of Sayaka than we've seen before, though I'll say she's just as reckless. As cool as it is to see her regenerate, her regeneration going Wolverine levels during the fight, that isn't going to do much if her soul gem gets hit by one of those things that's causing her to regenerate. She's just fully exposing herself and powering through the damage, with one massive weak spot just waiting to get hit. So assuming that Toka really is behind magical girls turning into doppels and the rumor thing, that would mean she created this area that Kyobi is repelled from around Kamihama. That still wouldn't acknowledge baby Kyobi's presence here. I'd have to assume Toka is also a magical girl herself, so likely that a wish caused this. So why doesn't Kyobi know about it either? Kyobi always seemed like a hive mind, so all of them should know what one of them did. So even if baby Kyobi is some repressed version of the one that granted the wish, my expectation would be that they should still know what it knows. And my final note here. And there, at the end, the indication that we were still heading towards Walpurgis. I still believe that I was correct in thinking that this is just one of the many failed Akemi timelines, considering the salvation of magical girls that we are aware of through Madoka happens with Madoka defeating the Walpurgis. If the Walpurgis is somehow defeated by these groups, then I'll have to come up with a completely different theory as to what's going on. At the moment, my Occam's razor still has to be different timeline. But yeah, that's all my thoughts about the last season's ending. So I guess there's nothing left to do but hop on into this episode and see how season 2 starts.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, as a recap. You start with a recap. I don't understand. Patricia, okay. Also, yeah, this is from... I mean, it's a Kemi. That's a Kemi from an earlier timeline. So I was going to say I don't understand the witch language stuff. I mean, this is from one of the top 3 episodes of Madoka. What? That we? Also, you're doing this while time is stopped, which is even creepier. So, is my girl gonna show up in Kamihama, but it's gonna be like one of the weakest versions of a Kemi? Okay, I'm pretty sure this is definitely not the timeline where Mimi goes crazy and kills everybody, or tries to. Okay, so this is directly after that. I guess also implying that Sayaka was at her strongest in a completely different timeline. I mean, the weird thing about is getting all this information here, because to appreciate the scene, you would have already had to have seen Madoka to understand the intro. Yeah, and there was that other timeline where Mimi finds that all out and goes crazy and then, like, kills everyone. Tries to again.
魔法少女の慣れの果てだったなんて。それじゃ私たちキューベイに騙されてたっていうの？騙すだなんて人聞きが悪いな。キューベイ。
And of course, Akemi already knows all this. But in this loop, nobody knows that Akemi's looping, so...
これは正当な取引だよ。でも魔女になるだなんて言わなかったよ。聞かれなかったからね。それで納得できるわけないでしょ。魔女になりたくないと言うなら、魔女を倒してグリーフシードを手に入れればいいじゃないか。グリーフシードでソウルジェムを浄化し続ければ、理論上は永遠に生きることだって可能なんだ。人類の寿命や能力と照らし合わせても決して悪い取引ではないはずだよ。魔女を倒すって。
I guess the other element is that magical girls don't like level up for killing witches. So there could always just be a more powerful witch.
けれども魔女になり果てた者たちをその運命から解放するためには対峙する以外ないよ。どうしてこんなひどいこと。ソウルジェムになった君たちの魂は燃え尽きてグリーフシードへと変わる瞬間に膨大なエネルギーを生み出すんだ。それを回収するのが僕たちインキュベーターの役割なのさ。そんなことのために。
You know, it occurs to me, we've never actually seen them gather that energy in any specific way.
その宇宙の寿命を伸ばすために熱力学の法則に縛られないエネルギーを得るのはとても意義のあることだよ。そう思わないか？思うわけないじゃない。さやかちゃん、あんたのせいで私はマミさんがまどかも。ひどいな。僕は平和的に話をしてるのに。
As I said, hive mind, so they all should know what each other one knows.
認識の相違から生じた判断ミスを後悔するとき、なぜか他者を憎悪するんだよね。まったくわけがわからないよ。
Again, essentially how Madoka started. Like Akemi with chains.
あんた、こんな話を聞いたのに随分と冷静じゃない。このこと知ってたの？さやかちゃん、落ち着いてください。なんで黙ってたの？知っててずっと私たちのこと笑ってたの？そんなわけ。待ってさやかちゃん。
It's a pretty big jump.
確かに魔法少女のことは大変だけど。
I mean, Akemi did know, but it's just like pretty big jump to point a sword at her.
そうだけど、でもこのままじゃみんな絶望を振りまく魔女になってしまう。みんなが救われるの？その権利があるの？私が絶対になんとかしてみせる。
Again, though, Memi was apologizing for stuff that happened to Sayaka, which seemed like she was apologizing for stuff that hasn't happened in this timeline.
どうしてマミさんがさやかちゃんにひどいことするの？それはきっと魔女か誰かに操られてるんだよ。そんなの分かってるよ。そうだけどさ、私たちなんかにできることなんてあるの？今だって三竹原の魔女にすら勝てないんだよ。それに三竹原にはもうすぐワルプルギスの夜が来るし。
Implying that they do know about that already. This, I guess maybe this isn't Akemi that told her about it? I mean, it doesn't take much to set Sayaka off into the despair route, it feels like.
私たちが絶望しちゃわないように黙っててくれたんだよね。ありがとう。かなめさん。でも大丈夫だよ。きっと大丈夫。
Okay, are we gonna get the cool Akemi? I guess it's hard to say that. It's the tortured Akemi, but you know.
何度も時間を繰り返してきた。答えを探して。何度も。何度も。でも今回は今までにはない出来事が起きている。この時間軸でなら。
Okay, got it. This is the exception timeline. I guess implying that this is the only time this specific thing ever happens.
女性をミスと呼ぶのはミスやミセスのように未婚既婚にこだわらない意義は大きいですが、先生はあえて積極的にミスと
さやかちゃん、
独身であることをアピール
ムラちゃんも。
する姿勢が将来のミセスの座を勝ち取るための重要。
憧れるほどのものじゃないわよ。私、無理してカッコつけてるだけで。
But what would a doppel-Akemi be
誰
like?
にも相談できないし、一人ぼっちで泣いてばかり。いいものじゃないわよ、魔法少女なんて。マミさん、このままじゃみんなバラバラになっちゃう。神浜市、そこで何があったかを調べればカナメさんを救うヒントがあるかもしれない。
Okay, but it's still gonna be an earlier version of Akemi.
この魔力は昨日と同じ魔女。
I guess at the same time, though, this is a world where Mammy is still alive.
あの結界に誘い込まれたらこの人たちは助からない。
I don't specifically recall a transformation sequence for Akemi before.
これでしばらくは大丈夫。
Should it? It's police tape. You walk right through it.
ともえさんならきっと。
Ironically, yes, I do believe in this situation Mammy would pull a gun.
この反応はホムラちゃん。さやかちゃん聞こえる？今ホムラちゃんが昨日の魔女と戦ってるみたいなの。はあ？あいつなんで一人でそんなことしてんの？さやかちゃん今どこ？
Moping in my room. Sayaka always does.
私にも来いって言うの？なんで誰かのことばっかり気にしてられるの？
Oh, did she have pictures on those chairs? I don't remember that from the first time around.
私強くないから怖いんだよ。怖いよ。私だって怖いし、マミさんだって怖かったはずだよ。私ね、あれからずっと考えてたんだけど、みんなでなら魔法少女になれる気がしたの。魔法少女のまま生きていける気がしたの。まどか、怖くて辛くてたまらなくても、みんなで話して泣いたりして。
It's gonna be the reality where Sayaka fucking listens.
魔法少女になんかなっちゃったけど、みんなと一緒なら後悔なんかしない。
I guess that explains the opening. I guess that's Magia Records' addition to the franchise, is the transformation sequences.
私なんかじゃ、ホムラちゃんのことは私が絶対助けてみせる。だからさやかちゃんは私を助けて。そしたらいつかきっとホムラちゃんがさやかちゃんのことだって助けてくれるよ。何よそれ。
She didn't, though. She didn't.
さやかちゃんが助けてくれなきゃ、私きっと帰ってこられないから。まどか？ちょっと、まどか？わかんないよ。 はいいの。助けて、マミさん。
I just don't know why Sayaka is so dependent on Mamie, considering how strong she is in this timeline.
でも、もう一人で行っちゃうのはなしだよ。上浜市の魔女は他よりも強いってマミさん言ってたの。だから私だって渚原の魔女には負けてられない。
I mean, to be fair, Madoka, you are apparently the god of magical girls.
魔女さん、前は私と同じ魔法少女だったのに。ごめんね。
I guess the disappointing thing actually has to be, though, that no matter what happens here, we already know none of this matters. Because this is one of the failed timelines. And Akemi's already, like, put it out there that this doesn't happen in any of the other timelines. Well, at least not the one she's experienced yet. So, you know, unless Aroa and all the company escape the bonds of fate somehow, this is all going to get reset and it's not going to matter. So how are you moving? Time stopped. There we go. Never mind. Answer question. So does that imply Ui was touching her somehow to be able to be doing that in the previous scene?
なんでこんな簡単なことすぐに気づけなかったんだろう。私だけじゃなくって私たちが魔法少女なんだよね。ありがとう、まどか。
Oh. Weird camera position. I was like, where the fuck is she grabbing her at? This is pretty clever. I never thought about doing this with Akemi's power. Is that a different voice actor? I don't remember her sounding that way. Oh, okay. I was about to say, how you can do a bow and arrow with one hand. Does that imply that in no timeline did they ever actually defeat Patricia? Except, I guess, the final one, when Madoka cures all the magic girls. I like the original soundtrack so much better. By which I mean, this is a song from the original soundtrack.
もっと手強いんだから。でもまだ負けてないもん。まどか、私たちまだ何も始めてないんだよ。諦めなきゃいけないようなことなんてまだ何も起きてないよ。かなめさん、私きっと一人じゃ魔法少女になるか決められなかった。でもマミさんがいたから魔法少女になってみんなの
Wait.
ことだって助けられたの。だから今
So
度は
then shouldn't future Akemi try to isolate Madoka as much as possible? For what you just said there? And then she doesn't, though. We know that she doesn't do
う
that.
まくいってる。もしかしたらこの時間軸でなら本当にかなめさんを救えるかもしれない。
It's not, though. Okay, good. It does say second season down there, too. Unfortunately, it's not. Obviously, it's not the timeline where she saves them. Something that occurred to me there at the very end, too, was the element that if they do go to Kamihama, that doesn't make any sense to, well, primary our point of view from the Madoka Magica universe is the view of what happens at the end, the primary timeline. But try to imagine Madoka leaving school and traveling to another city in the original timeline. Like, how would she explain any of that? Because if memory serves, that's somewhere near the beginning-ish of the season. Well, yeah, I think in the past timelines, Madoka becomes a magical girl real early. So that would have happened somewhere near the beginning to middle of Madoka Magica. And she doesn't get, like, the wherewithal to just, like, do anything she wants until, like, the very end of Madoka Magica, where she has that conversation with her mother. So I just don't see how past Madoka gets to Kamihama without any problems. The Eve of Awakening.
マギウスの本拠地はどこ？
僕たちも知らないよ。
マギウスの
Is that
本拠地は
Felicia?
どこ？
知らないって。
マギウスの本拠地はどこ？
本当だよ。本拠地は移動する噂なの。
Because maybe I just think automatically every blonde-haired girl is Felicia.
ホテルフェントホープ。探しても無駄だよ。迎えに来てもらわなきゃ中へは入れないから。
That's very convenient.
失礼します。
Also, why don't you have that Black Wing invite you?
君が
クロエです。
ああ、そうだったね。
Is that coordinator?
ホテルフェントホープの生活には慣れたかい？
私に何か用です
I
か？
don't remember the name off the top of my head.
君はお姉さん、いや、玉木いろはを知っているかい？
Okay, my problem there is that in the Japanese, I heard Nissan, which I think I'm used to hearing in like a "Do you know my sister?" Not my friend, but you know I'm not good with Japanese. Maybe that's just in context friend. Also, I'm just gonna double check the board real quick, because that was Nemu, right? Yeah. So Nemu, Toka's friend from back at the hospital, where they should have known Ui. So it's weird that Nemu was asking about Iroha, Ui's sister, when apparently nobody else remembers Ui. Yeah, let me double check. Kure, no, that is not coordinator's name. Why does that sound familiar, though? Oh, Kuro, there we go. Oh, so I completely forgot, because we haven't seen her since, like, episode 1 or 2 of the first season. That's the girl that was on the train with Aroa, who first started talking about seeing Kamihama in her dreams, the message. We haven't fucking seen her in forever. It's like, I know that name. And I don't think I have even mentioned her in my notes since, like, 3, 4. I think there was an episode where Aurora was trying to text her in, like, episode 3 or 4, and that has to be, like, the last time she has ever been brought up again. Oh, I don't know. There's a lot to break into on that, but obviously it's not enough here to specifically get into it, other than the fact that I guess Kuroa got there, you know? She did what she said she was going to do, which is probably why we haven't heard from her again. Not surprising that Nemu is part of it, considering that Toga is a part of it. The confusing bit is Ui. I think that's who was contacting Akemi in the time stop space. Very concerning that she's moving around and talking in the time stop. But as per Akemi saying, if you're touching me, the time continues to go. Which, of course, is a major weakness, I would think, of her power. I just don't know what that implies. Again, I love it when I'm right. And I have been saying from, like, the beginning, nearest the beginning, maybe this is all just one of the failed timelines. And Season 2 starts by proving me right. I'm excited for it. I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed because this being a previous timeline means it's the less cool Akemi. It's the Akemi who's still trying to find herself and figure it all out. But to be fair, that's also the Akemi who hasn't, like, fucking just completely given up and is on the edge of despair, which is a good thing. So, excited for it. I didn't know where they would go, but it seems like every time we enter the Madoka Magica universe, anything is on the table. And that makes it oddly more enjoyable. So there's the element when it comes to, like, games design and everything that often gets brought up in the circle of people that I talk to about gaming stuff, which is to say, when anything is possible, nothing is interesting, is usually it, because legitimately, if anything is possible, then you could just never guess what's happening. It could be a god intervening, or if somebody made a magical wish, or, you know, like, anything is on the table. You can't suss anything out. But I think we have just enough rules here in the Madoka Magic universe. Like, we go a little bit too far, because we have wishes, right? So, anything I can't explain in the current framework of a thing, there's always on the back of my mind, well, maybe somebody made a wish. You know? So, unfortunate, but I think we're, like, right there on the border that it kind of still all works out. Well, anyway, I think that's going to be it for this episode, because I think a lot of this is just going to be going back and remembering what happened in Madoka Magica, specifically during one part of one episode. So, and I think that's best left handled to the notes. So, I will come back with notes about that. So, until then, once again, I've been Theta, this has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?